Welcome, everybody. It is Monday morning on Club Fantasy FFL's YouTube page or Twitter, wherever the hell you're watching us right now. Monday morning, that means it's Mock Draft Monday. I'm filling in guest hosting Joshua Hudson here at the One Hudsonian on Twitter with my esteemed co-host Ryan Weisse at the Fantasy 5, mock drafting like we usually do. Ryan, you put out a tweet. You wanted to fill some guest spots. Who you got for us this week, brother?
So yes, first and foremost, thank you to the community. Thank you to Michael. We'll get to that in a second. Thank you to the community. Basically, I've been very clear about this. Monday morning at 11 o'clock in the morning is not the easiest time to fill these drafts, and it's certainly not the easiest time to fill these guest spots, but it's a great time to do this show. And the nice thing about these shows is they're almost evergreen. You can tune in and watch this 3 months from now, and it's still going to make a little bit of sense at least, especially with today's draft, and we'll get into that in a second. But Michael was actually the very first person to respond to me, which is why he is on with us the very next week. So I'm going to let Michael introduce himself, but he is I think he works primarily in Devy, but if you know Devy, you certainly know everybody else. You just know them way before everybody else. But he does the 4D chess show with Destination Devy. So Michael, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello, everybody. Happy to be here. Ryan, it was crazy that we met. I just happened to see a retweet by Jeff Bell about looking for people. And I'm like, hey, every other week I'm off on Mondays. Why not reach out? Hey, I love to talk fantasy football all the time. So I'm happy to be here. Primarily focused on Dynasty over at Destination Devy, Dynasty strategy. But hey, I'm always down to draft anything. Fantasy football is fantasy football, baby.
And what I love about that is everybody who's ever followed us on this show knows I play Dynasty like a redraft person. It's always fun to get Dynasty people into redraft leagues and see how they approach things, especially, and I kind of put this in the show description, I'm very interested to see how you value rookies versus some of the other drafts we've had lately. So that's going to be a fun one to see how everything goes here. And to get to the draft itself, we are doing something a little different this week, and we're going to talk more about it as the draft progresses. But I wanted to do something different, and Michael was game. I am focusing on tight end premium this week. Tight end premium, for those who are not aware of the format, typically awards more points per reception to tight ends, usually nothing more than 2. Usually it's only 1.5. Sometimes they'll get bonuses in yards and even for first downs, but it's basically seen as a way to make tight ends at least on a heavier or a higher platform and more level with wide receivers. We'll talk more about whether it actually does that because as we all know, tight end is a wasteland in fantasy football. It's a greater late strategy. You have to get one of the top guys or you're going to be streaming the position. And does tight end premium actually fix that? And should it change the way you draft? So that is the way we went with it today.
All right, Ryan, let's queue up the draft board.
All right,
let's get that up on the screen. Bad boy off. Because I'm not involved in this draft. So I'm just going to be sitting here directing traffic and questions to you guys. And, at the end of the day, tell us, Michael, I'm just going to start with you, buddy. First off, what's your sleeper name? Where are you at in the draft here?
McNutted picking 110.
All right. So you're picking 110. Perfect. So I'll start with you before we then get into Ryan. So, all right. First pick off the board, Jonathan Taylor. I don't think that's really much of a shock here.
No.
Michael, give us kind of your thoughts really quick on tight end premium and how much it dictates your draft strategy, whether it's in Dynasty or redraft, specifically redraft, since that's what we're doing right now.
So I'm playing in 25 plus Dynasty leagues, and every one of them is tight end premium to some extent. You know, whether it's half point, 0.75, full point, half point with start 2 tight ends, mandatory. So I got plenty of experience with it.
Yeah.
I will say it is slightly overrated. For me anyways, like if I'm doing a new startup today in Dynasty specifically, I'm taking Kyle Pitts. And if I don't get Kyle Pitts, those other tight ends have to fall at extreme values for me to take them. Otherwise I'll just dive down into the crappers and just take the Hunter Henrys of the world.
Yeah.
Because they're going to score about this similar. It's kind of this fallacy. You mentioned pre-show about it. The fallacy of tight end premium where everyone thinks all these tight ends are going to get boosted up. And really it only applies to like 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody else is just meh.
Well, there's one of the 4 going right there at the 104. So
I knew what I was doing.
Sorry to cut you off, Michael.
No, you're good, man. Anytime Travis Kelsey goes at the 104, we have to talk about that.
I'm saying, right? So, all right, let's shift gears a little bit. Ryan, I mean, we know your love affair with Travis Kelsey.
Yes.
I'm actually surprised you weren't on his dating show a few years back. It's a match made in heaven at this point. Travis Kelsey, 30 plus years old. We no Tyree Kill now in KC. I mean, he's it, right?
Yep. And that's exactly what I'm looking at. I actually made the case last year, and this was I'm a firm believer and always have been in Jonathan Taylor. But I made the case last year when we were going into the draft that your first pick should be Christian McCaffrey, your second pick should be Travis Kelsey. And a tight end premium, I stick with that completely. In that, what it does is it creates such an insane gap between Kelsey, Mark Andrews, and you can make the case for Kyle Pitts, Darren Waller, George Kittle. It makes such an insane gap between them and the guys everyone else is going to end up with. There is something about positional scarcity that makes this pick worth it. So I updated my own projections to bump tight ends to 1.5 PPR, left wide receivers and running backs at 1 PPR. Justin Jefferson is projected in my scoring to get 362, Cooper Kupp 349. They both have more than Travis Kelsey. However, Kelsey is at 309. And then if you just jump down to the tight end 10, that's 100 more points than the tight end 10 in a 10-team league. That's literally 5 points per game that I'm going to outscore. So that is my strategy here with taking Kelsey this early. I picked 4 on purpose because I figured running backs and I thought one wide receiver would go ahead of this, and I was going to shock the world by taking Kelsey. It's more about talking about tight end premium. We're going to get in. Does this mean every tight end should go early? Not necessarily, but this is my thought process here is I want value-based drafting. I want the guy who's going to outscore every other tight end.
Well, it's interesting to me that you brought up about him ultimately scoring about 100 more points than what the tight end 10.
Tight end 10 in my projections. So
yeah. Okay. Well, and that's fair. I mean, that's basically what Cooper Kupp did last year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and then we see Cooper Kupp going right here at the 105. So it makes perfect sense when you're talking in terms of that level of strategy. I mean, so far we've had just the one tight end come off the board. So, I don't know if maybe it's just the ADP here in Sleeper.
I was going to say, I want to preface all this. Sleeper does not allow you to set up tight end premium in their scoring. So I've made it very clear to everyone in our draft room that this is tight end premium. I don't know how on board everyone is going to be. So
fair enough. All right. So Michael, you now take the second tight end off the board here at the 201, Mark Andrews. I love it. I mean, he finished as the tight end 1 last year. They lose Marquise Brown. He's still going to be the 1A or 1B in terms of target share in this Ravens offense, no matter how many targets you think they're actually going to throw. Where do you have him ranked, whether it's or preferably in redraft, if you do redraft rankings?
Well, Dynasty is ranked 2 for me.
Okay.
So
okay.
He's in it's Kyle Pitts, and then it pretty much becomes everybody else in Dynasty. But number 2 is a fair spot. And all the reasons for Travis Kelsey love, I would definitely have Travis Kelsey number 1 in redraft. But I would say Mark Andrews would probably still be my 2, and Kyle Pitts a close 3 for me in redraft purposes. We've already seen it, like what he can do. And I know there's the splits out there with Lamar Jackson, without Lamar Jackson. He's still a stud. And they trade away Hollywood Brown. I mean, you don't think he's going to get more work? Come on.
Yeah, and he's been consistent in the red zone as well. Yeah. And that's the big thing that we talk about a lot here at Club Fantasy with tight ends. We need touchdowns. Yeah. I mean, with as bad of a position as tight end is, you score a touchdown 1 week, you're a top 12 tight end. Like, it really is that easy most of the time. So if you're going to get a guy that has 10-plus touchdown potential, it makes a lot of sense, especially in a tight end premium league. We've seen him do it touchdowns. Last year, we saw him do it with the receptions and the yards to boot. So it's kind of hard with him going into, I believe this is year 5, to not put him in that sort of upper echelon of tight ends.
Yeah.
Speaking of here, now we've seen 5 tight ends go off the board in the first 21 picks.
So everybody paid attention.
Tight end premium at its finest, people.
Yes.
I think maybe
Michael, you mentioned
one more. There's maybe one more tight end I would consider here in the next couple rounds in tight end premium. But
I don't want to make you say it, but I definitely, when he gets drafted, let us know, because I have.
I want to see if somebody who's already taken a tight end is going to go with this like bully tight end strategy that's kind of become a thing of late. And
I'm glad you brought it up. I instantly regretted taking Tyree Kill when I did when I saw Waller go next. I should have taken Waller there. I should have 100% did that. So yes, you are very correct.
Yeah, we completely missed on a talking point because of that, Ryan. Fuck you, asshole.
Yep, I agree. The second I did it, I was like, what are you doing?
Oh, no.
So I'll mention this really quick, Michael. Was Dalton Schultz that guy for you?
Yes. Dalton
you mentioned
Schultz
there was one more.
Dalton Schultz was that guy for me. As much as I'm an Iowa fan, TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz would be the last one.
Yeah, I agree completely. Wonderful just analysis there. And I think a lot of the reasons we like Dalton Schultz, and I don't mean to speak for you, feel free to correct me, is a lot of the exact same reasons we love Kelsey and Andrews. Kelsey and Andrews, it's more of an extreme. Both teams lost their wide receiver one. They are the wide receiver one. While Dallas did technically lose their wide receiver one, they still have CeeDee Lamb there. But Schultz is likely the wide receiver two there. We don't know how healthy Gallup is. We don't know if James Washington's going to have a connection there. We don't know if Jalen Tolbert's ready to play right away. Dalton Schultz showed us with over 100 targets last year and ability to score touchdowns. He put my guy Blake Jarwin out of the league. We have to give this guy Dalton Schultz his respect.
Love it. All right, so Ryan, you're basically going all pass catchers here. You said fuck them running backs.
I reached an impasse with 2-7, and I 100% agree with Josh. And let's talk bully tight end for a second. I reached an impasse with 2-7 where I looked at Nick Chubb, Kamara, and another running back who I'm not going to mention yet. I looked at those guys and didn't want them. And so I don't normally go zero running back, but this kind of fell. And I got Tyree Kill, who is a boomer bust player, but he's always been boomer bust. You're just hoping it turns out well in Miami. I almost took Debo. So to see Debo get all the way back to me 7 picks later worked out really well. But bully tight end is an interesting thing. And if you don't play tight end premium, you're probably not familiar with bully tight end at all. But it's where you are willing to spend 2 of your top 5 picks to land premium tight ends. And in tight end premium, flip all those words around, it makes a lot of sense because they're going to score more than some of the wide receivers and running backs you're going to get there. And ultimately points is your goal. And I set this league up with 3 flex spots on purpose. There is plenty of room to start as many tight ends as you want if you want to buy full in to tight end premium. So Darren Waller should have been my pick. You can make an argument for Kittle as well. They should have been my pick there when Kelsey and Waller had my tight end and flex spot filled and worried about the rest later. I 100% would rather have had Waller than Tyree Kill.
All right, so let's kind of look at this through 3 rounds. And Michael, I want to kind of bring up this point here because we see Aaron Jones go at the 303. You get Zeke at 309. Saquon Barkley all the way at 310. Here at Club Fantasy, myself, Ryan, Joe, we obviously have some opinions about Saquon and, the Giants team as a whole. The back end of the 3rd round just feels like a fucking steal. So give us your thoughts on Saquon and ultimately what you're expecting out of him this year in New York.
Yeah, I had 2 targets for round 3 that I really wanted to get for redraft purposes. And Aaron Jones was the first one, so I was a little bit heartbroken that he went off. People are back in on Aaron Jones, unfortunately for me. But to get Saquon at the end of the 3rd round, even though it's 10 teams, right? So it's really like the middle of the 3rd round if you're doing a 12-team league. It still feels disgusting. Like, I don't think that should happen ever. Saquon, I really like. New system coming over, Dable from Buffalo. The fact that he's fully healthy now, he was looking really good and just had some freak injuries. Like that stepping on the ankle and rolling it and being out after he just had a monster week the week before. It's like, he was just so unlucky. And now this year, you think the offense is going to be better. They obviously went out in the draft, drafted Evan Neal, like a guy I really like at the offensive line, help shore that thing up a little bit more. I'm excited for what Saquon can do this year. And to get a guy that I really think should probably be a 2nd-round pick pretty solidly for the running back position at the end of the 3rd is very enticing for me. I'll smash that every time.
100%. I'm on the exact same page there. It's the issue with Saquon is injury risk. And I have said multiple times, injury risk exists for everybody. And it's not like these are repeated injuries. Last year was just a literally freak injury where he got rolled up on. It's not that big a deal. And you're eliminating some of your own risk, landing him in the 3rd round. You have Saquon Barkley as your RB2. 2 years ago, that sounded like nonsense of people saying, but now you have him as your RB2. A lot of the risk is out the door now. You just have to build a team around him.
Love it. Love it. Start off
Michael,
with Swift pairing with Saquon. I'll take that all the time.
That's sick. Yeah. And then Keenan Allen there as your number one wide receiver. That's another guy that, is always talked about on our show as one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. Consistently over 100 targets, always up there at 90 receptions. Just an absolute consistent force. And, with a now third-year quarterback, Justin Herbert, coming off a 5,000-yard passing season. Yeah, boy. I mean, come on. Like, he's going after some of these guys that you're just chasing upside. Like CeeDee Lamb, for instance. Like, I just don't get it in redraft. I really don't. Like, you want him to be great. You want him to fill that Amari Cooper role in Dallas, but he hasn't yet. And you're just going off of projection at that point when you could get somebody like Keenan Allen who is still consistently doing it. I just don't really know how I feel about that. Dynasty, it makes sense. I get it because of the age gap and everything else there. But, Michael, I want to bring up really quick because you mentioned you're an Iowa guy. Give me some thoughts on TJ Hawkinson this year because, obviously the big hype at the end of the season was Amon-Ra St. Brown, new wide receiver 1, et cetera, but he was a 4th-round pick. Then they go out, they trade up for Jameson Williams. Swift comes back from injury. Hawkinson's back from injury. Now there's a lot more mouths to feed there. How does Hawkinson fit into this offense? Or is he going to be the one that maybe gets phased out and they're going to focus more on the receivers and getting Swift the ball out of the backfield? Or is Hawkinson just going to continue to be that target guy?
The most worrying part for TJ Hawkinson has nothing to do with TJ Hawkinson. It has to do with who's the quarterback.
Yeah.
You just mentioned all the mouths to feed, right? The Swift, the Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, drafting Jameson Williams whenever he actually steps on the field. Jared Goff's the guy calling signals. He's the guy behind center. He's the guy who has to deliver the ball to all these people. I don't have a lot of faith in Jared Goff to do that. Now, I think it's a boost for him. Like if you wanted to pick him up on your last pick as a quarterback and just take a shot on him, that's fine. But the TJ Hawkinson problem is Jared Goff. If they had a better quarterback, I would feel much better about drafting TJ Hawkinson because he has the talent, he has the ability, and we've seen it even with other weapons in the backfield. Like DeAndre Swift and him were functioning very well last year before injuries kicked in. It's just now you got Amon-Ra emerging. Now you got Jameson Williams.
I don't want to interrupt, but you're on the clock. I don't know if you realize.
Yeah, I'm thinking hard.
You're fine. I never like to see my guest auto
fine, man.
because
I'm multitasking.
So, yep, perfect.
This feels early and stupid, but there we go. All right.
There's no such thing as early and stupid on the end.
Of course, it's a mock draft. You're testing out theories here. This is what we're scientists with grant money without actual grant money. Like at this point.
Going back to Hawkinson, I wanted to be down on him, and then I went in and kind of looked at the games where all the wide receivers played, obviously with Jared Goff, and he was still right around 7 targets per game, which would put him at roughly 120 on the season. I don't know that he's going to hit 120. I don't know that he's going to play 17 games. Yeah. But anything over 100 for a tight end is pretty well worth it. So I still have Hawkinson kind of like on the back end of tier 2, maybe the top end of tier 3. I agree with you on how the tiers kind of break down. He's still there for me. I like where he went in this draft, but I'm not as low on him as it seems a lot of the fantasy community is turning on him at this point.
I just want to point out one thing here as we get into the 6th round. Ryan, I was giving you some shit about, fuck them running backs. Jay Izzle over here, 6 picks now. Yep. 5 wide receivers and a tight end. So you want to talk about fuck them running backs.
And there's a reason behind it. So, and this is something where if you don't ever look, and I don't pretend to be a 0 RB expert or anything, but one of the main things that 0 RB enthusiasts look at is how many wide receivers can I start? They tend to have a safer floor. They tend to have easier to project workload. So how many wide receivers can I start? The way I set this league up was 3 wide and 3 flex. 6 wide receivers to start a draft is not an awful strategy.
All right, I want to get your guys' thoughts here on Javonte Williams. Ryan, you took him here at 407. I believe his ADP on Fantasy Pros right now is like RB8. I know it's somewhere in the top 10.
This was RB15.
RB15 Exactly.
ADP
And I know his value is propped up primarily from the dynasty community. Everybody's very high on him. A lot of people have him in their top 5s in dynasty. And for a while, he was being drafted even in redraft in that top 7-8 range. Now Melvin Gordon is officially signed, back in the fold. Since we're on Ryan's side of the draft, Michael, I want to start with you and kind of get your thoughts here. Do you think we're going to see, kind of a similar split, which maybe in a way caps Javonte's ceiling? Or do you think he's just going to now see kind of the lion's share of the role because we got the first year taste and Denver would be stupid not to unleash him?
I think it's too much dynasty value propping up where he's going in redraft for me personally. Okay. I do believe that the split is going to be more favorable towards Javonte Williams. They let Melvin Gordon go out, explore the market, and not really find anything, right? Remember the whole, he's going to the Ravens. J.K. Dobbins is dead now. The whole thing. Then what happens? He comes back. He signs in Denver, paired up with Russ. I would say maybe instead of being such a 50-50 split, we might be looking at 55-45, and they just keep trying to phase him out. So he may end up being a better second half of the year play as the Melvin Gordon role keeps diminishing. But the only thing that makes the pick really good is just what you talked about. Like RB15 is stupid. It's a no-brainer to take him there at that spot. The people who are taking him like in the 3rd round, they're taking him as a top 10 running back. I can't get on board with that. There's other options I'd rather go to that I feel safer about. In Dynasty, I want all the Javonte Williams I can get. In redraft, I have to be a little bit more, hey, let me take a step back here and put my Dynasty love aside and think about just winning this year.
Yeah. Anybody who's followed along with this show, you've heard this speech numerous times, but I'll say it for everybody who's new. I very much follow systems. Denver's going to run a Green Bay-esque system, and I see Javonte Williams in an Aaron Jones role, and that's where I'm buying in completely. He did stat out. I didn't give a perfect 50-50 split on the work, even though that's what everyone's projecting in Denver. I did give him more work. I certainly gave him more passing. And then the touchdowns is the big debate. Josh had a great stat last week where Melvin Gordon has scored, I think it's 9+ touchdowns every damn season of his career, basically, outside of his rookie year. I probably need to re-examine my rankings without my love of Javonte Williams, but the pass catching is what does it for me. Our buddy Joe, who picked right before me in that round, basically told me he's here to snipe me and that I better not snipe him. So I was just sitting here with bated breath waiting to scream at him. And then he takes my other guy who I thought would fall around later, Leonard Fournette, who I do love in redraft this year. But give me Javonte Williams as the RB15 in the 4th round. I will openly admit I'll take him in the 3rd and even the 2nd. And here's my only defense. I took Jonathan Taylor in the 3rd and the 2nd last year and got called crazy, and it worked out pretty damn well.
All right. So through 7 rounds, you just kicked off the 8th round here, Michael. 7 rounds, we have 11 tight ends come off the board.
Yep.
I understand this is tight end premium. This still feels a little bit high for my taste. So, Michael, do me a favor and debunk the theory of tight end premium. And Ryan, I'll let you piggyback after you make your picks.
Yeah. Well, tight end premium, you're getting the bonus for actually catching the football, right? Every time you catch the football. So wouldn't that lend it to like the guys who actually catch a lot of footballs? That's kind of the basis of it. So if you have a tight end who doesn't catch a lot of passes, maybe they're boosted by just random touchdowns, or maybe they're boosted by like a big yardage gain. If they're not actually one of the main target share guys in the offense catching footballs all the time, the bonus doesn't really help you out that much.
Yeah.
It kind of just makes a tier flat. It's just a flat tier of guys who are the same, and they're not really boosting. That's why when we talk about, hey, the big tight ends, the top 5, if that's how far you want it, maybe 6, those guys who actually are a threat to get 90, 100 receptions a year or better, those are the ones who are getting the boost. So that's where the whole fallacy goes in. You think it applies to all tight ends. It doesn't apply to all tight ends equally. It applies to the really good ones, and then everybody else is just sucking hind tit. Like, they don't get much out of it.
100%.
I bring that up because I look at Dawson Knox here at tight end 11, and I feel like that's a fair value just in like standard tight end rankings because he is so touchdown dependent. But, you lose Beasley, you bring in Jamison Crowder, who hasn't stayed healthy like ever. Gabe Davis is supposed to take this big leap. There's a lot going there in Buffalo, and they don't have the same offensive coordinator, even though they're expected to run a still very similar system. It feels a bit like a reach there in tight end premium. No? Am I crazy for thinking that?
So I am already lower on Dawson Knox than most. So you said he went off at tight end 11?
Yeah.
Keep in mind, I have my projections lined up for tight end premium. Dawson Knox actually fell even worse. And he is my tight end 25 in a tight end premium format because the targets aren't going to be there with those wide receivers. Yep. You're relying heavily on touchdowns, one of the hardest things to project. And then just to take that over, I have him at about 133 fantasy points in this scoring format. That would put him at wide receiver 68. You could argue that Dawson Knox doesn't belong on a roster, even in a tight end premium format.
I need to ask how you take Dawson Knox over Cole Kmet.
Oh, because she's smart?
No.
So let's get into Cole Kmet. It's why Linda's here. Linda's probably furious about Cole Kmet going before her. Faith did it. Let's just throw this out here. Faith openly admitted she drafted Cole Kmet just to get his name on the show.
Perfect.
We are
it was going to happen regardless, let's be honest.
Exactly.
I was literally looking for a Cole Kmet PNG to put on the thumbnail graphic for this particular episode.
That would have been great.
It really was.
So here's what I want to throw out. We are a notorious show that hates Cole Kmet. I don't even want to say I lead the charge. We're all pretty equal, but I'm very vocal about it. There are two schools of thought on Cole Kmet, and this is where it's going to come down to your value in Cole Kmet in tight end premium. And I'm going to let Michael talk him up if you want to, by all means. If you believe Cole Kmet is an 85 to 100 target person again, and there are people projecting him 110, 120, I just realized I'm drafting. There are people projecting him 110, 120, things along those lines. If you believe that, then Cole Kmet is the pick here without a doubt. Because as Michael just said, you are chasing receptions. You are chasing guys who catch the ball. I do not believe that. I believe, again, and I sound like a broken record, but this is the whole point of trying to help you guys. I chase the system. This is a system that in the last 2 seasons in Green Bay, with no second wide receiver, with a pretty decent tight end, did not target a single tight end more than 60 times in the season, didn't average more than 5 targets per game. I think 85 targets is his absolute cap, and me and my girl Linda have a shot bet going on. We're going to buy each other shots, and by that I mean she's going to buy me a shot if he finishes sub 80 targets. I don't see it happening. I don't think it takes an injury. I just don't see it happening, and I understand they have no other pass catchers. They're not going to throw the ball very often. They're going to funnel to Darnell Mooney, who I landed 2 rounds ago. I personally don't see the targets. However, if the targets are there and you do see the targets, there is value, as much as it pains me to say, in Cole Kmet and tight end premium.
All right, Michael, let's hear it.
Everything that he mentioned, just take it and reverse it for me. I see the targets.
All right, hit and rewind button. Let's go.
Yeah.
I see the targets. I see the value in it. And I also see we were talking in terms of tight end premium, but just in general terms of fantasy, I see the positive touchdown regression because it's pretty easy to have it when you don't score.
When you score 0?
when you score absolutely none, it's pretty easy to get positive touchdown regression. So for me, he got 93 targets last year, right? In that offense, Allen Robinson was there, whatever the hell he was actually doing or not doing in that offense. It's Darnell Mooney, it's Cole Kmet, and whether that system lends itself to, in the past, throwing to the tight end and revolving the tight end, they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice unless you're going to feature Byron Pringle or Equanimous St. Brown.
We love Pringles.
27-year-old Velus Jones.
What you pop can't stop, baby.
It's not going to happen. So it's like, okay, we're going to try to hit Darnell Mooney, and if he's covered, who the hell else? Cole Kmet. All right, here you go. Take the football. So for me, everything that you said, take it back. I see the targets there. I see 100 targets. I see 110 targets. Pretty solid.
And positive touchdown regression is big. I'm going to throw a comment up here on the screen where he says, look what Getsy did with Robert Tonyan. That was a 10 touchdown season, maybe 11. on 58 targets, if I remember correctly. It was some like obscene number of 58 receptions. Regardless, it doesn't lend itself to repeatability. So you're asking Cole Kmet to do something he's never done before, which is score touchdowns. So that's my larger concern. He scored 2 as a rookie, scored nothing. And obviously there are those who say, well, Jimmy Graham's out of the way. My question is, how did this physical specimen not push Jimmy Grandpa out of the way to begin with? And that's my larger concern. And let's not forget, my boy, James O'Shaughnessy is there. That's a joke.
Golly. This is where we had it. James O'Shaughnessy. I didn't think I was going to wake up on a Monday.
Oh, you have no idea.
And have to talk James.
Welcome to Club Fantasy, baby.
The Cole Kmet hate runs deep here. So deep that we adore his backups.
I mean, let's be honest. Cole Kmet's backups last year scored all the touchdowns, and Kmet couldn't break the end zone. So,
well, the good news is Jesper Horsted just signed with the Raiders, so he doesn't have to.
So he doesn't have to worry about him. There you go. Okay, perfect. All right. So one thing I do want to bring up here, because we haven't talked about this position yet here in the draft, and Ryan, if I remember correctly, this is a 4-point per touchdown league, and
I made it just treated as 6. I made no bones about that anywhere.
Well, we can treat it however we want. This is one of the few drafts where I've only seen 3 quarterbacks go in the first
very impressive
5 rounds. So I'm proud of that aspect, because you see a lot with some of your home leagues. Quarterbacks tend to go early because people just automatically assume that, they score the most fantasy points and, things of that nature. And something that we try to do with these drafts is try to help people understand value at a certain position. Yep. With quarterback, there's not a whole lot of a difference between the quarterback 4 and quarterback 12 in points per game. And going through and looking at the quarterbacks here that are actually going, Josh Allen's going to throw a lot of touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes, we know who he is. Some people obviously think that he might be regressing a little bit this year without Tyree Kill. But until proven otherwise, he's still Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert coming off 5,000-yard season. Then you've got Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Obviously, these guys have that rushing floor, which is a built-in cheat code in fantasy. So, Michael, I'll start with you since, Ryan's getting ready to make his couple picks. How are you seeing this board layout with the quarterbacks? This is right where you kind of see it? Is there a guy that maybe hasn't gone yet that you think should have gone? Was there a guy that went too high in your opinion?
If there was a guy who went too high, it's going to be me taking Justin Herbert.
I disagree completely. I love that pick, but we'll get to that in a second.
I normally never take quarterback early. Never. I agree with Joe Burrow's still out on the board right now. We're in the 11th round. I'm looking through the receivers, trying to figure out which turd I want to draft to help fill my team. And I'm looking at man, I wish I would have done that the other way. I really wish I would have done it the other way. Joe Burrow's still out there. A guy like Trey Lance, who, if he starts and he's everything we think Trey Lance is going to be, he could have a Jalen Hurts-like season. Easily. He would be one. Justin Fields. We just kind of talked about Cole Kmet and the lack of options. Justin Fields, you're going to get maybe even a couple rounds even later than this. If that's where you wanted to place your chips and place your bet on Justin Fields, hey, he's got to run the football a lot. He's got to be Jalen Hurts of the Bears because the rest of his weapons are trash. That's a guy I would like to plant my flag on and take a shot on. So I think it really lends yourself, when you just look at this board and the quarterbacks that are still here, it doesn't make you feel good when you take a quarterback early. I had to try it out. I had to see what it was like, experiment a little bit. I hate it. I'm never doing it again. I'm out.
All right, so we'll put this here. Had you not taken Herbert, who would you have taken? Because just looking at the next 6 options.
Yeah.
Anybody but a quarterback. All right, that's fair.
Anybody but a quarterback. Probably, if I'm looking at it, maybe Montgomery or Breece Hall. To be honest, I would have stuck with the heavy running back focus for me.
So I want to throw out, I think round 5 is when it's okay to start gambling on a quarterback once you've built your team the way you want. However, hindsight is 20/20, and Michael hit another great point on the head. You are sitting here, I don't even know what round we're in because the screen's too damn small for me, round 11 with massive quarterback talent still available. So it's okay to look back and be like, man, I wish I had made that pick. But at the time, getting your quarterback, who is my quarterback 3, basically a full round later than the quarterback 1 who went off on this board, 2 rounds later than the quarterback 1 who went off, I think is an absolute steal. And you were able to build the base of your team around it. Building a team around Justin Herbert feels like a very good idea this season. So I don't hate it, especially as the 5'10". I love it as the 5'10". But I do 100% agree with hindsight in 2020 and all of that, because you run into this fact now where, like you brought up, Joe Burrow just went off the board at the 11-7 after you took Herbert at the 5'10", and there's a minimal gap between Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, my theory with these top echelon quarterbacks is always there's a certain round in the draft where I'm okay making that pick, and it's always going to be a lot lower than what their ADP is.
Yep. So
but
you
it just kind of
never
feels
going to get them,
and you just kind of assume that you're never going to get them. Exactly. But I mean, for a guy that just threw 5,000 yards in a 17-game season, I feel like the 5th round is okay.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I'm not saying that Joe Burrow can't do that, because he very well could. I mean, Jamar Chase just set the rookie record for receiving yards in a season. We've seen T. Higgins now 2 years in a row be an absolute baller. You know, Tyler Boyd is still there. Let's not sleep on him. He may not be the same kind of fantasy asset because of the emergence of Chase and Higgins, but he's still a reliable target that plays well in a real NFL system. Joe Mixon, you know, and speaking of Tyler Boyd, there you go, Michael. Glad I queued that up for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, it's just, it's one of those things where, yeah, there's not a lot of difference when you're looking at, you know, potential yards. Maybe even touchdowns, you know, who knows? Maybe Chase does just go freaking nuclear this year for 16 bombs. And, you know, T. Higgins is that reliable red zone threat for another 10 or 11. But, you know, the way that Herbert's throwing the football, I feel like it's still better on a tier of its own from Burrow, in my personal opinion. But he also offers a rushing upside that we don't really see with Joe Burrow, in my personal opinion. And you mentioned a couple late guys, Fields, Trey Lance. That's why we like them in fantasy, because of that athletic ability and because of that rushing upside. Now, you mentioned, you know, the possibility of Trey Lance, you know, starting kind of being one of those late round guys. A common theory that I've heard, if you're going to go into a draft with Trey Lance as your target at quarterback, how do you feel about doubling up at the quarterback position, whether it's immediately after, a few rounds after, just to kind of like protect the investment, if you will?
For me, this also comes back to like the handcuffing thing, right? It's kind of the same strategy, handcuffing running backs. I never like to do it because I always feel like I'm betting against myself. Like I'm betting on myself to fail. I want to have enough conviction that if Trey Lance is my guy, Trey Lance is my guy, and I will shoot somewhere else. I may be more inclined to just take another wild card at the quarterback position with my last pick or something along those lines. But I'm not going to actively bet against them. Like I've seen people who go like, oh, you should take Trey Lance and then you should take Jimmy Garoppolo a few rounds later. Why? You're actively betting against yourself. It's the same reason, like if you take Dalvin Cook and then you pay up to go take Alexander Madison, you're banking on Dalvin Cook getting hurt.
Why did you make that pick to begin with?
Yeah. Why are you so high on Dalvin Cook then? That's the exact thing. So if you're not in on Trey Lance, if you take Trey Lance and then take a handcuff at the quarterback position to handcuff you weren't really in on Trey Lance. Let's be honest.
It's also trying to decipher. Yeah, and it's also trying to decipher what's going on in San Francisco, but it does sound like Lance is the guy. We saw an interesting thing last week, and I don't want to beat the dead horse of last week, but the guy handcuffed Trey Lance with Deshaun Watson. And I was like, you essentially just walked out here with possibly 0 quarterbacks. So that is not the strategy.
That one's rough.
No.
Yeah.
That one's rough. Yikes. And, you know, speaking of late round quarterback, I mean, Ryan getting the reigning Super Bowl MVP here, Matthew Stafford, 12th round. Like, oof. Wait, did he win or did Cooper Kupp win the MVP in the Super Bowl? I can't remember.
I think it was Kupp.
It was Kupp, yeah.
It might have been Kupp. All right, whatever. Stafford, let's be honest, Stafford was the reason they cut.
Well, I was going to say, I just got to...
Somebody had to throw Cup the football.
According to Twitter, Cooper Kupp is Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, they're interchangeable.
They're the same guy, right?
And they're all
Never changed.
Edelman.
Twitter never changed.
Yeah. But I got a piece of Cooper Kupp in the 12th round of a fantasy draft. Yes, please.
Yeah, right? Exactly. I love it.
That's horrible.
And I mean, just this round in general, if you believe in the rushing upside of Trey Lance, which you very much should, Tom Brady, who is going to come up in my end of draft synopsis, and we'll just save that for later. And then getting Matt Stafford, a MVP-like quarterback who still has Cooper Kupp, one of the best weapons in the NFL, if not the best weapon in the NFL, a hopefully rebounding Allen Robinson. And there's no reason to think he wasn't 100% comfortable in this offense last year and could literally improve in year 2. So I'm very on board with Matt Stafford in the 12th round.
All right, so Michael, I want to put this out here really quick.
Yeah.
We're in the 13th round. Obviously, you've seen however many picks go off the board at this point. Find me a pick that when that pick went off the board, you said, what the fuck? Whether it was because you really wanted that guy to fall to you, or it was
we only got to go back a couple rounds.
Man, you're reaching for that guy.
Nasty Nez with his Allen Lazard pick, literally right before me while I'm going RB heavy build, trying to backfill with wide receivers. He picked Allen Lazard, and I wanted to cuss him out. Like, what? How could you do this to me? Like, these are the kind of guys on this kind of build that I have right now that I need. I need the Allen Lazards. Yeah. Like, I need to take the chance that, hey, maybe he's a 120, 130 target guy for Aaron Rodgers this year. And to have him taken literally one pick before me, it was devastating. Broke my heart. Damn it, nice.
I just want to say that, Michael, if you ever do come on the show with us again, you have full permission to lambaste your league mates in a mock draft. On air, we really don't care.
I was going to say, on this show, we try to be nice to the actual guest, but we'll also just destroy the people in the draft with no
perfect. So. I was trying to keep it PG-13. And
there's no. This show is a train wreck. Don't worry about it.
But hell, it's a great way to start off a new week, a Monday. You start off Monday morning just by getting triggered and going on full tilt about a fucking mock draft. So why
exactly
not?
What
Let's
it
go.
Should be.
Let's lean into it.
You get us, Michael. You get us.
Why not?
So, one thing, and this could be sleepers ADP that's influencing this, but one thing I'm noticing in this draft, because I've been doing a few of the puppies and a few of the best ball manias, and the ADP for two guys I'm going to bring up is very, very different here. And we've already talked about one. Javonte Williams is going much earlier than he did here. But another guy, and I like what Joe, our buddy Joe Pep, J Pep has done all in general on his team. But Gabe Davis in the 9th round, I don't even know how I feel about Gabe Davis yet. But with a current ADP of, I believe, wide receiver 25, and it's a big debate on when he should be going, and should he be going that early? Do you want your piece of Josh Allen? How do you want it? The 9th round feels right for him, but this is not the Gabe Davis ADP you're seeing in more competitive drafts right now. So I don't know if Sleeper is going to catch up with that, but I'd love to hear both of you. Just what are your takes on Gabe Davis? Because I'm still not fully decided. I kind of have him as like a boring 100 target, 6 touchdown guy, which doesn't move the needle for me either way.
I mean, since Michael's picking, I'll offer my thoughts really quick. I think so many people, you have two sides of the coin, right? It's, well, look at that playoff run that Gabe Davis just absolutely lit it up. There's no more Cole Beasley. Gabe Davis is going to be the wide receiver 2 in a high-powered offense. I want every taste of that. Yeah. And then you have the other camp that is, well, they brought in Jameson Crowder to play the Cole Beasley role. So why would Gabe Davis still get targets when they funnel through the slot? I mean, maybe they funneled through the slot because Cole Beasley was there before, and that's just where Josh Allen got comfortable throwing the football. And, oh, by the way, Beasley catches 75% of the targets that are thrown to him. Gabe Davis doesn't catch like that. He's a very different type of wide receiver. He gets down the field. And for me, those types of wide receivers, if they're not the number one option, they're a one-trick pony in the NFL. They're not going to see the 100 targets. They have a chance to go over 1,000 yards, but they're likely averaging 16, 17 yards per reception. So, do I want a piece of the offense? Sure, absolutely. For me, the 9th round feels like, okay, I'll take that shot. Like when everybody was getting gung-ho about Mike Williams, like with this New Orleans system coming over and all the talk that he was going to be the X receiver and play that Michael Thomas role, it was, all right, maybe this is the year that we finally get the Mike Williams that was the 7th overall pick, but can he stay healthy? And it feels like this was sort of that range where he was going last year. And then we saw a top 12 finish from him last year because he saw 120 targets. He's had the production and he stayed healthy. I don't really think that you have the health concerns so much with Gabe Davis, which is a good thing. Yeah. But again, it becomes the risk versus the reward. And for me, that 9th round feels okay. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, the draft position where he actually went in this draft feels good to me. Now, if you're talking like 6th, 7th round, you're getting crazy for me. There's so many other players I'd rather put my chips down and bet on that kind of profile later. Gabe Davis, I mean, he's fine. In Dynasty, that we got the term face planter, right? Mm-hmm. DFB encounter, put it out there. He's a big Gabe Davis hater. He hates Gabe Davis, but it's for all the right reasons. Historically, these kind of guys don't ever really amount to anything. They just kind of always tease you. Think like Brian Edwards too. Like how many years have people been in on Brian? Oh, this is the year. It's never been the year. It's people are back in on Brian Edwards now because he's in Atlanta. Oh, now he's gonna have opportunity. He had opportunity last year. He didn't do shit. That never happens for him. I think Gabe Davis might actually fall into that trap, but the Mike Williams comparison was really good. Like that is something in the 9th round, in the 10th round, in the 11th round. I can definitely talk. Hey, I've seen Mike Williams do it. I've seen Mike Williams go down this path. Let me throw it. And if I miss, who cares? It's the 9th, 10th, 11th round pick. Ideally, most of these guys are probably going to end up misses for people. Most of these players drafted are going to disappoint or get injured or not do as well. The ones who do exceed, the ones who hit that ceiling, like, holy shit, Gabe Davis actually was very good and tied to Josh Allen, those are your league winners. So at this point, why not? Why not shoot the shot on it? I mean, who else are you going to – Damian Harris, do you want to put your chips down on Damian Harris, or would you rather put your chips down on Gabe Davis? For me,
right now, Gabe Davis.
For me, give me the Gabe Davis all day long. So pretty easy in the 9th round. But I will agree, I'm not as high on him when the draft capital, like I have to pay a premium to get him.
It's very interesting, the difference between sleeper and like I said, underdog best ball drafts right now. It's a very different ADP than what we're seeing in underdog, like extremely different. And for the most part, sleepers playing very well. But again, there's not a lot. Everything is kind of focused towards dynasty right now, but that doesn't really make sense with Williams ADP. But there's not a lot of redraft going on right now. It's more best ball. And it's just very strange to me how different the ADPs are, I guess is my long way of saying a very short sentence.
All right. So we're coming up on the last 2 picks here. So Ryan, I'll kick it to you first.
Yeah.
Let's get some draft takeaways here. Give me some picks you really liked, some picks you didn't, kind of your strategy with your team, and go from there.
So I'll start with my team. For the most part, I knew I was coming in taking Travis Kelsey with the 104. That's exactly what my strategy was here, was get a very good tight end and then not worry about the position anymore. I'm not going to go try to fill my flexes up with tight ends, except that I should have taken Waller. I never go into a draft thinking I'm going to go 0 RB. I'm not saying I don't do it. I occasionally do, and this isn't quite a 0 RB, but I never go in expecting to skip RB. But I do what feels right. Stay very fluid in your draft, and getting guys like Tyree Kill, Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, Darnell Mooney before I started loading up on RB. I am a guy who typically wants 3 running backs in the first 5 rounds, and it didn't happen today, and I'm okay with that because the team still played out the way I wanted it to.
Well, let's be honest. You drafted Deontay Johnson. You already won this league.
I say so. I got Josh's vote, but we talked about Javonte Williams falling all the way to RB15, but then 2 rounds later, I get Breece Hall, and there was someone else. Let me see if I can find it real quick that I was considering at that Breece Hall pick. Josh Jacobs, and he didn't even go great pick at the end.
The end of the 7th, yeah.
Yeah, so he went a whole nother round later. So it was really between Jacobs and Breece Hall, and I've talked about this before. I think they're going to run Jacobs into the ground. Great for fantasy, not great for Josh Jacobs, but I don't care. But I wanted to share Breece Hall in a redraft just to see how it shook out. I don't know. Breece Hall is probably going to feel very similar this year that Javonte Williams fielded last year. felt last year. So I'm probably looking at 2 top 24 running backs, but the ceiling might not be there. Eli Mitchell, if he's a bell cow back, which they kind of want him to be, but can he handle it? And then getting Devin Singletary, and I've talked about this with Rashad Penny multiple times. For the last 5 weeks of last year, he was the RB1 in all of fantasy, and I got him in the 11th round. We talked about late quarterback. Late quarterback's going to come up again after I let Michael talk a little bit. Irv Smith was really just a flyer. I'm a little down on Adam Thielen. I think Irv's going to come back. I don't know if he'll catch enough balls, but I'm hoping he does. And then Kenny Gallaudet and Nicole Hardman. Gallaudet is very interesting because he's the wide receiver 1. No matter what you feel about Wan'Dale Robinson, he's still 5'8" and 178 pounds. He's not seeing 120 targets. Sterling Shepard is not going to be back. I think it's an Achilles injury for him as well, or it might be ACL. He's still not even cleared to practice yet, and they're waiting on updates, and they expect him to be behind on their updates. So Kenny Gallaudet could easily see 110 to 130 targets, and I just landed him this late in the draft. He's a guy you should keep an eye on as just a filler wide receiver. Don't expect to get him this late. And Nicole Hardman is my shot at trying to get the wide receiver 1 on the Chiefs. I'm one of the few people who still believe, as I've said before, they drafted him to be the next Tyree Kill. This is his first chance to be the next Tyree Kill. Let's give the guy a chance to be the next Tyree Kill. So that's kind of my team in a nutshell. I'll talk about some other picks, but I want to let Michael talk about his team first. So,
all right, Michael, let's get it. You're muted, buddy.
Oh,
I can't leave a draft without taking DeAndre Swift, man.
I love it.
Just like I can't start talking when the mute button's on. It doesn't work that way. I have to take DeAndre Swift, especially if I'm picking at the back. I'm too infatuated with DeAndre Swift and the 20 point per game upside that he has in PPR that we saw before he got hurt. So Mark Andrews, tight end premium. I mean, we kind of touched on that one. Had to take it. Let me get my number 2 tight end. If Kelsey's going to go at the 104, Mark Andrews at the 2-1 seems like a steal. So take it. Saquon Barkley, incredible value. All right, so I didn't take any wide receivers in the first 3 rounds. I got to start going wide receivers. Keenan Allen, I need one. The Justin Herbert thing here, this is a guy who I think has QB1 overall potential pretty easily. I don't know if that's a hot take to say when he was QB2 overall.
I was going to say.
I don't think that's hot, but the 5th round, I was like, man, let me go ahead and take him. 5th round, end of the 5th round feels really good. But again, like you kind of mentioned, hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I would have rather passed. But all right, so here we are. I'm not wide receiver heavy. Everybody seems to be taking wide receivers. So this is like where my strategy started to come into play. I stay very fluid on what I want to do until people start showing their cards, right? The cards are on the table that people are fading running back. People are heavily drafting wide receiver. I don't want to chase wide receivers. So let me just lean into the running backs. Cam Akers, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs we just had Bob Lung from the Fantasy Football Expo talk about his consistency guide on our show last week. Yeah. The fact that Josh Jacobs, I think in his guide when he charted it out. So if you think of consistency as above average weeks, so like quality starts for a pitcher or wins above a replacement, that kind of metric, Josh Jacobs was the number 2 running back in the NFL behind only Jonathan Taylor. So every single week he's giving you an above average week. So to get him this late on an offense that just got better and is going to be more efficient, and he's going to have more opportunities to score touchdowns, the things that we love in fantasy, it was a slam dunk. Cam Akers, that pick is part of my dynasty heart, but give me a part of that Rams offense. Give me a part of that Rams offense. Rashad Bateman, Hollywood Brown's gone. The whole, the reason behind taking Mark Andrews is one of the reasons you take Rashad Bateman. It's Andrews and Bateman, and who the hell else is catching footballs there? That's it. So give me the 2 guys in that offense. Miles Sanders, I'll never quit him, unfortunately, being an Eagles fan.
I like you, Michael. I like you, buddy.
Josh also.
Go Birds.
I can't quit this fucking guy. I don't know why he's giving me a billion reasons to. I will never quit you, Miles.
Well, we talked about positive touchdown regression with Cole Kmet.
There you go. It's got to happen. Brandon Ayuk, a guy I love. Just at this point, man, I'm just trying to backfill wide receivers. I talked about the Allen Lazard pick right before Tyler Boyd. Like, I would have really loved to go on Allen Lazard, Tyler Boyd there. Yeah. Instead, I got to pivot to Russell Gage, a guy who I've dunked on all offseason. I shit on.
The hype is there today.
I don't understand the appeal. Maybe it's going to rise. Like, I truly think his ADP is going to keep going up when it's official that Chris Godwin is not going to play for the first 6, 7, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, people should have known. He suffered a late season ACL and MCL injury. Like, he's going to miss quite a bit of time.
I was going to say, tearing both of those, there's a potential chance he could miss all of the season.
Yes, very likely. And even if he does come back, he's going to start slow. So I can see the Russell Gage hype. I'm just not a big Russell Gage guy, man. He had all – I take him here because I have to. I take him here because I'm into this strategy of let me get all these wide receivers now because I fucked off.
You dug this hole, you lie in it, Michael.
Yes, I got to go. I got to go. So let me get Russell Gage. Sky Moore, I'm just throwing darts here, right? Chiefs offense, rookie. I don't expect a lot of production from him, but hey, what if he pops? What if he pops? Now I got Sky Moore. I got a piece of that Chiefs offense. Gerald Everett's a tight end I like, and it fits with Justin Herbert. Same kind of thing. Give me another piece of the Chargers offense. And then Jalen Tolbert, we're just throwing darts at the wall here. Like, Jesus, another offense that I like in Dallas because they're so bad. Fuck you, Dallas. They're so bad. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot, and there's no Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup, another late season ACL. How much time is he missing? They're going to have to find somebody else in there. So give me another piece of that offense, and I'll shoot my shot on Jalen Tolbert and hope it becomes something. But this whole thing only became because once, like, I stuck to Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
I took Cam Akers. I took Josh Jacobs. It's like, we really got to lean into this. Let me just throw shit at the wall at the wide receiver position and try to back it into the skin. Yep. Let's go.
Love it.
All right. So I have a few last thoughts I just want to quickly throw out. So just so everyone's aware, if it's your first time joining us, we don't break down every team. The draft is kind of the background thing. We're here to help the listeners get better. There are 3 things I want to draw attention to. First and foremost, we talked about this early, tight end premium. A lot of people did fall into the trap. Dawson Knox, Cole Kmet, Mike Gesicki, Zach Ertz. You want these guys, even Dallas Goedert, you want these guys in the sub-10th round. The targets and the receptions aren't going to be there to make them that much more valuable in a tight end premium. You're probably not taking these guys where you took them in a regular draft. Consider it a regular draft. You want to focus on targets and receptions. Quarterbacks, excellent job by every single person involved in this draft. They went late. They went where they were supposed to in a 10-team draft. I don't even care that people drafted 2 quarterbacks in a 10-team with 15 roster spots. It's absolutely fine. Almost was going to be kind of the oops of the draft, if you will. If you followed along, I like to kind of find one error. You're looking at Tom Brady going at the 12-2. He was the QB3 last year. Got him insanely late. But if you just look at kind of that run of quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Joe Burrow, Trey Lance, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, and Aaron Rodgers, a league MVP a few years ago in the 14th round.
Last year, actually.
Oh, was it last year? Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Back to back.
Yeah. So, like, in the 14th round, wait on your quarterbacks, as Michael already said. But looking at Michael's team kind of led me to the oops of the draft. And I love what Nasty Nez has built. However, I have a major issue with Adam Thielen going ahead of Rashad Bateman, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Hunter Renfrow. I know Juju is a polarizing figure. I'm not a big Adam Thielen guy. We are reaching the point in his career where it's going to be slow and steady steps back. I don't think you want to expect a step up. I brought this up on the show a few weeks ago. There are rumors of Dalvin Cook playing more wide receiver. Running backs play more wide receiver when there are issues with the wide receiver room. So Adam Thielen is my oops of the draft. You build a great team all in all. You didn't do it till the 7th round, but Rashad Bateman and Amon-Ra St. Brown especially should have went before Adam Thielen. Otherwise, great job by everybody. It was really one of the best drafts. And I think hopefully a little bit of that is a lot of the people here have drafted with us for multiple weeks. So we appreciate you guys, and you're truly doing a great job. I can't wait to see all the championships you win with this preparation.
Love it. Absolutely love it. All right. And that's what we got this week. 10-team, tight end premium, redraft. Let's just make sure that you guys are pumping up those views on our YouTube page. We recently crossed 350 subscribers, and when we hit that 400 subscriber mark, I got a signed Deebo Samuel jersey. I'm just itching to give away to people. So watch this video, hit subscribe, tell us what you think, tell us who you think would win said hypothetical league, and tell us what we can do better. We like putting out new content. And speaking of new content, one of our new shows, Dunking on Joe, with Joe Pepe, who was in the draft with us here today. We're recording a couple episodes tonight that we're hoping to drop later this week as well. So we're continuing right along with him, and it's nice and interactive. They're going to debate, and you get the opportunity to go onto Twitter and vote in the polls, and then maybe we're going to embarrass Joe, and somebody's actually going to dunk on him this week. Who knows? That's just it's a lot of fun. That's what we're all about here at Club Fantasy. We want to teach, want to coach, but at the end of the day, this is a game. So if you're not having fun, what the fuck are you even doing? Really, honestly. So Michael, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a Monday morning, but we appreciate you getting up and getting triggered first thing in the morning by missing out on Alan Lazard. So real quick before we kind of outro this whole thing, Michael, tell us where everybody can find you and everything that you got going on.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I don't recommend it, but the tag's down there at I wouldn't do it, but personally. But if you want our content, you can find me at patreon.com/South Harmony, get you into our Patreon. We're also doing a free show under Destination Devy Radio, so Apple, Spotify, all that. We do 2 a week. We do the 4D Chess Dynasty Football podcast, comes out on Fridays. And then we do the Trade Show podcast, comes out on Mondays. So there's actually one dropping here. If you want to check out our YouTube, it's McNutted, McNutted. So we also have the Trade Show video up there. Plus, we do a bunch of AMAs like during the weeks on Tuesday nights. We usually have an AMA and just answer a billion questions and have fun. But that's where you can find me. Don't do the Twitter thing. It's probably a bad bet. You're gonna see me like fight with random people on Twitter and argue.
So Twitter,
like people think I get mad. Like I'm mad when I'm typing. I'm not mad. I'm laughing. I'm like this. Like this is hilarious. It's Twitter. It's a fucking joke. Yes. That's my plugs right there. And then hey, you come over to South Harmon, we might be able to get you one of these sweet ass shirts.
There you go.
Look at that.
Go subscribe and become a shithead.
Yeah.
Bam, there you go. Absolutely love it. Once again, thank you, Michael. Appreciate you hopping on with us. Wednesday night, we are back with no punt intended, continuing our look inside team previews. This week, we are focusing on the Seattle Seahawks, the newly minted Washington Commanders. I miss the football team. I'm not going to lie. I really do. It's just too much fun to make fun of. And the Minnesota Vikings. And this week, we're bringing on Clinton Holmgren from the IDP guys. You may recognize Clinton from his time guest appearing with Ryan and one of our favorites, Kira Wojtrowski, over on their show DFS and Chill. Yeah. But Clinton's going to be joining us to talk about the Seahawks, the Commanders, and his Minnesota Vikings. So many new Look Inside team preview series this week. Later today, we're dropping a DK Metcalf article written by Chris Molina, one of our contributors. We'll have another post from Steve Lawson on Antonio Gibson drop on Wednesday. Yep. And then on Friday, the first article from Mr. Zach Berger, a.k.a. FF Chalupa Batman, on Irv Smith and the Minnesota Vikings. So be sure to keep your eyes glued to www.clubfantasyffl.com. You can always follow us on social media at Club Fantasy FFL on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at TheFantasy5. That's 5 spelled out, F-I-V-E. You can follow me at the One Hudsonian, and that's 1, the number 1, because, we just have to be different that way. And once again, if you choose to follow, you can follow Michael at Iowa Michael. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll be dropping a new episode of Dunkin' on Joe. On Wednesday, no punt intended, continuing our Look Inside series with Clinton Holmgren from IDP Guys. We will see everybody later in the week. Thank you. And please hit that subscribe button for a chance to win yourself a signed Deebo Samuel 49ers jersey. Have a good one, everybody.
The show's off next week. We're back on the 27th.
Oh, yeah. I probably should have mentioned that. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Well, we'll touch on it Wednesday. That works too.
There you go. Yep.
Peace out, everybody.